Okay, we are here to talk about our box and whisker plots. So that is definitely working with our Common Core 7th grade Statistics and Probability 1 and 2. But what we want to look at today is how to make these box and whisker plots and the different vocabulary that's associated. Box and whisker plots, I highlighted what's important. It is a big summarization. It summarizes. And it summarizes using 5 data points. And those 5 data points are the median, which we've learned before, the middle number. We can also call that Q2 or the second quartile. The upper and lower quartiles. LQ stands, of course, for lower quartile, which is your Q1 or your first quartile. UQ stands for upper quartile, and that's also known as Q3 or our third quartile. And the other 2 things we look at are our extremes. And our extremes are basically just our minimum and our maximum. So right here we've got our minimum value. Minimum is that smallest value in the set of data. And of course, our maximum is our largest value in our data. The next one, though, is called our interquartile range, or the IQR. And that IQR is a measure of variation. And in that variation, first of all, it definitely tells me my numbers have to be in order. So they do also have to make a box and whisker plot. But how we find the interquartile range is it's the distance between the lower and the upper quartiles. In other words, you just basically take that upper quartile, subtract the lower quartile, and that is your interquartile range. Just like when we were working with range of taking your largest and subtracting your smallest. So I want to go ahead and see about making a box and whisker plot. I wrote out all the steps for you. I even did step 1 already and put the numbers in order. That is definitely step 1. We have to put those numbers in order before we even start. Now, the second step says we've got to find the median. Remember, our median is that middle number. So we're looking at that middle number and finding it. So to find the middle number, remember we usually just check off the front and the back and the front and the back until we finally get to the middle. The thing is, with this, there's not one number in the middle, there's 2. So what I'm going to do is draw a line straight down those 2 because that's actually where my median is. It's directly between them. So my Q2 or my median is actually 15.5. That's the number directly between them. Now looking at the next one, it says that we are going to go ahead and find the lower quartile. Now that lower quartile, I wrote it here, is actually the median of the lower half, which means I'm covering up that line I just made, my median. I can't use that because that's the middle. My lower half is everything below that middle line. So my lower half are these numbers right here, these 6 numbers. So I have to find the middle of those 6 numbers. So if I check off the front and the back and the front and the back, I can see I've got 2 numbers in the middle, which means I'm going to draw a line straight down between them because my median of those is actually not either one of them. It's in the middle between them. So my Q1 or my lower quartile, well, the only number between 13 and 13 is 13. So that's my lower quartile. Now we can go ahead and look at our next one, which is asking us to find the upper quartile. And again, that's still the median, but this time it's of the upper half. So that upper half, again, you can't use that middle Q2 number, that line. That's the middle. We're going to use everything on the right of that, looking only at those 6 numbers. So let's find the middle between those, checking them off, and I can see again, I've got 2 numbers in the middle. If there was only one, I would circle it and that would be it. But since I don't, it's actually right here. So my upper quartile, or what we also call the third quartile Q3, is 18.5. Now, the last thing I need to do is to find my extremes. And those extremes, if you remember from our vocabulary up at the top, are my minimum and my maximum. Now my minimum, that's pretty easy to find, is the smallest number in my list. My maximum, also easy to find, is my largest number in the list. And now I start to make my box and whisker plot by making a number line. Now I already made the number line for you to save some time, but your number line has to at least have your minimum and maximum on there. So I went a little lower and started with 10, and I went a little bit above the maximum and ended with 22. As long as you have your minimum and maximum on your number line, you're good to go. Now we're going to go ahead and put a dot above. Whoops, I did that again. I almost crossed everything out. We're going to go ahead and put a dot above all 5 of those data points. So I need to look and find my Q1, my lower quartile, my median, my upper quartile, my minimum, and my maximum. Those are the 5 data points I have to put, and again, above. They don't touch the number line. They kind of float above it. So let's go to that smallest one, minimum, and I'm going to go ahead and put a dot. And then my lower quartile, 13, and I'll put a dot. My Q2, that's 15.5. That's right between the 15 and the 16, so I'm going to put a dot. My Q3 or upper quartile is 18.5, so right between the 18 and the 19. And my maximum of 21. Now I have all 5 data points on there, and I am ready to start to do my box. Now my box actually goes from the lower quartile to the upper quartile, and then I'm going to draw a line down through the median. So if I go ahead to do this, my upper quartile and my lower quartile, remember, here's my lower quartile, here's my upper quartile, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a rectangular box from the upper quartile to the lower quartile. Oops, just went away. And now, oops, I need to stretch that one out. There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and draw a line down through where that median is. So that median right here. And there we go. There's my box. Now the last thing it says to do is to draw a line, or our whiskers. And the whiskers, there's 2 of them. Minimum to the lower quartile and the upper quartile to the maximum. So we're going to go ahead and go from our minimum to our lower quartile and our upper quartile to the maximum. And once I do that, I have now made my box and whisker plot. Now what's important about a box and whisker plot is the fact that it tells me a lot. Quartiles, first quartile, second quartile, third quartile. Quartiles are like quarters. They represent 25% of all the information. So I know that 25% of all my numbers in my list are on that line. The other 25% are inside this part of the box. 25% are in this part of the box. And 25% are on that line. What that means to me is inside that box, 50% of all my numbers are in there. The smaller the box, the closer related those numbers are. The smaller the whisker, the shorter the whisker, the closer those numbers actually are. The longer those whiskers are, well, that definitely means there's definitely more spread out variation. And that's why we call this a box and whisker plot. And we call them quartiles because they show us where every 25% or quarter of our numbers are. I hope you understand that. If not, don't worry. Write down those questions, email them to me, and I will help you as best as possible. Have a great day.